It's Monday, October 5th, 2015. I'm Rim.
I am Scott.
And this is Geeknights, back after a surprisingly long hiatus, here to talk about For the People, rating people on the internet.
Not
like Yelp.
raiding like Oakland.
Rating with the T. Let's do this. So I'm not going to tell like every story from, me traveling all around the world, but the small stories I will tell now is one, I flew to Asia business class because fuck all y'all.
Someone else paid for it.
No, someone else did not pay for
You
it.
used your own monies to pay for that ticket?
Well, so normally I fly coach, but I can get premium economy if there's a reason. Like if I'm flying overnight or something, or like I'm going to land somewhere and I have a meeting like the next day or like something real quick, then yeah, I'll go like premium economy, which like on Turkish Air, that's better than most business class in the US. Like that is pretty nice by itself. But I will usually try to sweet talk people who work for the airlines into, can I just slip into that business class? I know there's no one sitting up there right now. I'll try to pull shit. And it very rarely works out. But I booked premium economy all the way to Asia. And one thing led to another, and one of my legs, because I booked it through one of those dodgy sites that like gets your stuff for you, I don't know what happened on their end, but they ended up giving me premium economy on a very like a little leg in one section of because I had a layover because there aren't a lot of direct flights that far, even from New York. So because my big leg was business class, it made the whole trip count as business class. So I got to fly in one of those little cubicles that has a full flat lay down bed and like a little shield I can put up, just like a tiny room. And I got to stop at my layover and go into a tiny apartment and take a shower and take a nap in an actual bed and eat a bunch of free food and drink a whole bunch of wine and then get on my premium economy flight the rest of the way. Let me tell you, I would never in my life pay that much money, even if I was rich, to fly like that, because it is so much money. It is stupid.
But what if I'm so much rich?
But the sheer classist like hierarchy of it, it's so weird to fly like that because you do
But
not.
the thing is, I don't understand who is rich enough to afford that, yet not rich enough to afford the private jet.
So actually, the private jet's kind of a pain in a lot of ways because they can't go. Like private jets can't go to Australia from New York easily.
Why not?
They can't. They don't have that much range. What kind of? You're not going to get a 737 as your private jet.
Why
or
not?
A 747.
Why not?
You just don't.
Why not?
That's
Google has one.
That's too much. Yeah, Google, not Sergey, but Google.
Sure.
Sergey doesn't have his own.
If he wants to go, he's gonna go.
Yeah, but so basically, the weirdest thing is that all that crazy luxury I experienced on this trip is a pale comparison to first class. The people
Business class is not first class?
No, first class.
So what if business class is a little cabin with a lay down bed, is first class like there's a mansion in the front of the plane?
I linked to an article a long time ago of a guy who flew 25 hours first class, like across the Pacific, and he had a room about half the size of the studio we're sitting in right now.
So that's not that big.
But with a full bed in it, a butler to take care of him, custom menu. You're driven to the airport, picks you up if you don't have your own driver, and you don't even interact. You go to a separate area of the airport and are checked in manually by people who take care of everything for you. Private security screening right there. Like you never interact with any of the plebes in the airport. Like you are taken onto the plane separately.
Okay.
Sometimes via a different ramp. Sometimes they drive a little car and let you walk up the ramp on the other side of the plane that no one else even knows they put there. Like a chef like deals with your meal arrangements for the entire trip, including at the airport. Yeah, it's messed up. But I got that and it was great. The other story I'll tell is how I almost died out in the bush.
Doing things I told you not to do.
So I went up to Lura and the Blue Mountains, and I did a whole bunch of mountain
How many
biking.
lives you got left there, Mr. Cat?
I've burned through maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, it's not looking too good.
So this is a great, I'm very proud of this thing that happened.
You're so proud.
So
you're all gonna die.
I'm hiking. I do the first day, like all these warnings, everyone's like, the Australian bush will fucking kill you.
Yeah.
And even
It's
when
not-
I
it's-
get there, like I hike on this little trail and I go down. So the Blue Mountains, there's this valley and there's like a kilometer-ish tall, like sheer cliff surrounding it. So you go down into the valley, which is already a pretty substantial hike, and
How
then
do you
down
get
there,
back out?
fucking climb. It's real hard.
Okay.
There's 3 or 4 points, at least where I was, where there's a stairway. I'm making finger quotes bolted into the side of the mountain, so you can get up.
Okay.
But the stairway is half stairway, half ladder, half rough cliff edges.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little train you can take in one point.
Oh, okay. That sounds good.
Yeah, like there is a train, and basically
Choo-choo.
everywhere near that train is where like all the people
Who aren't gonna die?
Yeah, who can't hike. Like there were people wearing flippy floppies, little kids, families.
They did not have a brush with death in the brush.
So the one thing I learned real quick was that all the signs and all the stuff everywhere, because there's all these signs that are like, if you go behind the sign, well, you might just die. Like
They're not
don't.
lying.
So what's behind those signs is not that deadly, assuming a couple things.
Not that deadly.
So it's
assuming you're Superman.
it is no more deadly than the trails I hike in upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically all those signs they're trying to scare away tourists, because a lot of tourists go there. Like people who go to like the Appalachian, like the mountain areas and climb in the US, very few people go to those places except like White Mountain that you can drive up to the top of, unless they know how to deal, like they know orienteering, they know hiking, they know this stuff. But the Blue Mountains in Australia, like a lot of tourists go up there.
Sure, there wasn't a poisonous animal there that was too small to see.
Nah, not
Perhaps
really.
some spiders.
So the only special warning I got
Snakes.
when I went mountain biking is a guy's like, "Oh wait, you're from the States. Do you know about Australian snakes?" And I was like, "Don't fuck with them." And he's like, "Yeah, don't fuck with them." And that was literally the extent. He was like, he wanted to make sure I knew not to fuck with snakes in Australia.
I'm sure he's had tourists fuck with snakes.
I guess.
Like, ooh, a snake, let's fuck with it. Ooh, an alligator, I'll poke it with a stick.
Well, people who live in the U.S., there's a lot of places where the average snake you run into is pretty harmless. Like a lot of kids will catch garter snakes. But anyway, so all those warnings basically say, if you don't fucking know what you're doing, it's dangerous back here. So if you know what you're doing, it's actually not dangerous. So
Except for the one time it is.
No. So what I did is I hiked on Federal Pass. I did a bunch of other hiking. I was in the valley all goddamn day. So I took this little trail out through Federal Pass, through all these, like this old coal mine, through an area.
Oh, that's not dangerous at all.
Not in the coal mine, like through the area where the coal mine was. Over an old landslip, so this giant landslide. You kind of skirt the edge of
That's
the ruins.
not dangerous whatsoever.
And way out there.
I just walked across the pit of lava and up the mountain of doom and over the jagged rocks of death.
So I'd been hiking all day, and I was real tired. I'd gone a long way. And I still had plenty of provisions. Like I was pretty good on water, and I had a little bit of emergency food left, and all my Mylar blanket and my life straw and my compass, all the stuff I would
going
need.
through Tombstone Gulch.
Yeah. So I'm gonna leave, and then I see, I'd read this trail map that said Ruined Castle Rock is a really cool thing to see, and Mount Solitary, which is further out from that, is like amazing. But all the things I read said like it's real hard and dangerous to get to these places. But then I get to like
Does Ruined
the end of
Castle
my
Rock
hike.
have an actual ruined castle?
It has a giant rock formation that from a distance really looks like a medieval castle. Like it looks like a medieval castle that fell into disrepair. But then you get up to it, it's like, no, it's just rocks. But
what a disappointment.
But yeah, but still, like from a distance, like it really looks like a castle.
I'll look on Google image search and I'll
From what I
find-
read, like early people who got to that area, like white people who were colonizing and disrupting, they saw it in the distance. They were like, uh-oh, is there civilization? Uh-oh. But then they got out there like, oh, it's just a rock formation.
Arty har har.
So
Lol.
I see a sign, and the sign's like, Ruined Castle, 3.6 kilometers. And I'm
That's
like,
not far.
yeah, I'm like, that even over rough terrain.
Of course, you have to cross over Tombstone Valley.
Even over rough terrain, that is not a hard hike. So I look at my maps, and the trail like gets dodgy in a few places, but not that bad. So I figure I'll go for it. And I actually ran there because like I run 5Ks. Like it's no big deal. So I get there, and it's basically these 3 pillars of rock, hundreds of feet tall. and it's amazing.
You knocked one down, and
No.
it fell on you.
So I climbed up on top of the tallest one.
That's a bad idea.
Because I know how to climb. It's not that dangerous. Like Emily could, like Emily and
you
I, either
knocked
one
down
of us.
the historic castle rock.
It is trivial to climb this thing if you have even basic bouldering skills. Luke Burridge apparently also climbed the exact same rock. He's been on that same spot.
You destroyed the historic castle rock.
No. The story is about how I almost died, not how I knocked down Stonehenge.
And you fell off of it with the rocks that erupted.
I'm standing on the top. There is zero wind. There is nothing higher than me in any direction except way off in the distance is the cliff wall of the valley surrounding me on all sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then in one direction, the one side other than that, is Mount Solitary, which is another 4 kilometers. But apparently there's no tracked trail. You've got to straight up orient to it. And I actually didn't have enough water to make it to Mount Solitary and back to Castle Rock and back to Civilization. So I decided not to go to Mount Solitary. In retrospect, I kind of wish I did.
You know why it's Mount Solitary?
Yeah. I would have had to hike back in the dark, which I was prepared for.
It's not because Superman lives there.
I was not. I could have hiked back in the dark, but I did not want to. I did enough night hiking the night before.
Well,
So,
almost dying once is good. Actually dying.
night hiking was pretty easy because of the supermoon, actually, believe it or not. Because I had to go up the cliff face at the end, but the moon was at my back, so I could see everything great. I didn't even need the flashlight until I got over the top of the valley and had to hike the rest of the way to the car. So I'm on top of this thing. It's amazing. It's breathtaking. I see Mount Solitary in the distance. I'm standing there on a pillar of rock that's about 1 meter in
Snake
diameter.
shows up.
And suddenly, a giant bug hits me in the face. And I instinctually go, to swat it out of my face. And I was wearing my fancy sunglasses that stick out further than my normal glasses. And I literally hit my glasses, knocked them off my face, and they were gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me, I can't see for shit. Like, I probably could have climbed down the thing, but I don't think I could have made it back to Civilization without my glasses. Like, I would have had to call the Rangers for help.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would have been in a lot of fucking trouble. And in fact, climbing down the thing would have been doable, but not optimal. Like, that would have been I would have had to make a lot of very serious decisions in a hurry without my glasses.
There happened to be someone there?
No, I did not see a human being anywhere in that valley once I got, like, it was easily a 5K hike to any humans.
Called someone on your phone?
So I did have cell service, which was good. So
where was the cell tower?
because it's in a valley, so the whole valley actually has cell service, which is great. So
the valley with no people in it, but cell service.
Yeah, because a lot of hikers are back there, so actually for safety, like that's the cost to run that cell tower is probably way cheaper than the cost of rangers looking for people who are dying on a regular basis. So it was a Samurai Jack moment. My glasses are flying off, and I just freeze and close my eyes immediately, and I listen, and I hear a little shh. And it was too soon to have been the glasses falling all the way down. Also too loud. And it didn't sound like they hit rock and bounced. So based on where the sound was, I creep over to the edge of this pillar and I look over and there's a bush sticking out of the side. And there's a couple other bushes a little bit further down. And I think I see, it looks like my glasses might be hanging from that first bush. So I very carefully climb down the side and they're not in the first bush. But they are in the second bush.
In the second bush.
So I put them back on, and I climb back up to the top because it was too dangerous to climb down there. And I wait for my adrenaline to stop pumping, and then I enjoyed the rest of my day, and it was great.
Why don't you get the thing that A, attaches glasses to your face, B, contact lenses, C, new eyeballs?
So I have the thing.
D, don't do anything where you could die.
To hold the glasses to my face. I have a croaky. It's in my ski stuff. I didn't think I would need it hiking. I did not think I would punch myself in the face.
You did not think you would die, but it's going to happen if you keep doing crazy, stupid shit.
So I highly recommend if any of you are ever in the Blue Mountains, if you know how to hike and camp and all that shit, seriously, ignore the warnings. Hike to at least Ruin Castle. It is breathtaking.
I recommend bringing more than 0 people with you.
Yeah.
Make that solitary mountain not so solitary.
So Mount Solitary, they do recommend having at least 3 people and 1 skilled orienteer.
Bring some equipments with you, maybe?
I had a lot of equipment with me. So I had multiple layers of sports gear, so I was actually equipped for very cold weather if need be.
But then you're melting when it's hot out.
No, I wasn't. Because it's fancy sports gear. I could shift layers and open vents.
So rich people only.
Yeah. Yeah, actually. I had a life straw, so I could actually drink water if I needed to. I could forage for water safely. I had two Mylar cape safety blankets, so if I broke my leg and was stuck there dangerously, I could wrap myself up in a Mylar cocoon to stave off exposure death long enough for someone to find me. I had a real compass, like a sighting compass. I had a topographic map. I also had my cell phone, and I had maps and everything in there. I was tracking my GPS positions the whole way, and I had registered my hike and my estimated return with the ranger's office.
Mm-hmm.
So if I didn't come back, someone would have eventually gone and looked for me. And I had enough equipment to survive.
Or would they?
They would have. They take that shit seriously. In fact, I could have taken a tracking beacon with me if I wanted, that I could hit a button on it as a, oh shit, rangers come find me. But I decided I was not doing anything dangerous enough to warrant that.
That was wrong.
I wasn't. I didn't need that beacon for where I was.
What if your glasses were not in the bush?
Then I would have climbed down and decided what to do. Either I would have called 000 or and just basically 911 and waited for rangers to find me.
Mm-hmm.
Or I would have slowly made my way down the trail that I had taken toward civilization and gone as far as I could safely get without seeing, and hope to run into someone.
And then you don't see the snake.
That would have been a danger, except it was evening, and actually, because I couldn't see anyway.
Night snakes.
So snakes really would only be on the trail during bright sunlight resting, because snakes avoid people. So I would have made noise,
Not
and if it was
the
dark,
night people loving snakes.
So get this, if it was dark, I wouldn't have been any worse off, and the snakes wouldn't be out. So actually, walking back in the dark without my glasses would have been way easier.
The nighttime is the time for the poison bats and spiders.
There's
and
no poisonous bats.
Owls.
The biggest danger might have been cockatoo fucking with me, because they like to fuck with people.
Yeah, eat your eyeballs, not protected now.
But anyway, we're back. Geeknights is back. We're hopefully going to be mostly uninterrupted like normal.
Well, be prepared. The last episode of Geeknights is coming soon. Next time Rim goes on a deadly trip.
You wouldn't continue the show without me?
Okay, I'll get
Emily knows how to use a Mackie. She could keep the show going.
Okay, we'll make the last Geeknights with Rim. Enjoy it while you can.
Actually, October 31st is going to be our 10th anniversary of Geeknights.
Exciting.
For real.
Arbitrary numbers.
But anyway, that's all Meta Moment stuff. I got an announcement for the Meta Moment. But yeah, it's Monday. It's Tech News Day, and there's so much tech news. We got to focus on.
We haven't done a show in so long. There's news and bits for everything.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about that we're going to skip because there's bigger things that happened more recently. So I guess your news is probably the most interesting. I guess mine is. So yeah, Volkswagen is probably the biggest news in terms of actual impact to the world. Volkswagen is a horrible fucking company, and
Jews never buy Volkswagens.
I like how John Oliver basically was like, remember the Nazis trusted Volkswagen, and he had all these swastikas. He was very fairly unfair to Volkswagen.
Jews don't buy Volkswagens.
So Volkswagen, independent of their interactions with the Nazis in World War II, because IBM, a lot of companies interacted with the Nazis in World War II.
IBM.
At least it's interesting how Germany is basically the model for a modern democratic socialist state. For real. Actual social. Germany's a pretty great place governmentally. Germany's taken in more
They got
refugees.
some problems, but so does everybody.
But they're taking in more refugees than everyone, which is kind of interesting in light of their... But Volkswagen was always seen as a, fair, well-run company globally. Volkswagen would be given the benefit of the doubt by a lot of countries and a lot of people. And they had a reputation for making diesel cars that were super fuel efficient, super non-polluting, super green, the best cars. If you care about the environment and you want to save money on gas, these are the best cars. They're
I
great.
don't know about that. We went to that Volkswagen dealer. That lady was giving us the hard sell. And
with the door. Listen to that. She closed the door repeatedly and make us listen to how great it
But the thing that
sounded.
really made me realize we shouldn't buy any cars there, because at first, obviously Jews don't buy Volkswagens. It's all right, you buy an IBM computer, right? It's whatever, right? It's not like I went there.
Yeah.
I saw the big lineup at the service center the other car dealers did not have, and I'm like,
Yep.
And you know what? That's actually true. Volkswagens are super unreliable.
So the long story short, because I realized a lot of people...
It wasn't just an anecdote that Volkswagen had a big lineup that day. It's no, they're actually statistically not reliable cars relative to other cars.
So if you haven't been following the story, I'm going to summarize it really succinctly. Volkswagen has been cheating on their emissions tests for a long time.
Right.
And
So the software in the car was written such to detect when the car was being given an emissions test. And when a car was being given an emissions test, the engine changed function to have lower output so that it would pass the emissions test.
and other things too. Like basically it turned on all the emission controls that the cars said they have. Like it did what the car is expected to do all the time.
Right, like, turn the air conditioning off, right? Turn all these things off, to make sure that you were getting,
But it's a little worse than that. The controls, like the actual, like not just air conditioning, like basic stuff like that, but like the actual pollution control systems themselves were all on. If the car was reasonably sure that it was being driven on the road by a normal person, it turned everything off. It spewed ridiculous amounts of pollution.
Yep.
We're not talking like 1% more pollution. We're talking like 40 times the amount of pollution.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? People think that like, oh, industrial pollution is really the big problem. And yeah, it is, but all the cars added up is a tremendous problem equal to, whatever, right? And the thing is, people don't realize if you take just 5% of all the cars, the 5% of cars that are really, really bad, that have awful emissions, put out like 95% of all the air pollution. If all the cars on the road were like super nice, and even though they're gas powered, right? Not even hybrid cars, just efficient, well-maintained, not broken, truly passing emissions test cars, like total air pollution from cars goes down by 95%.
Yeah, that's one reason why like hybrids and electric cars are such a big deal for pollution, because yeah, they're using the same energy, arguably more because of transmission losses, but instead of having millions of poorly maintained, I mean, I did not maintain that purple car I had at RIT very well.
Right, but I mean, even just a normal non-hybrid, non-electric car that actually has, regular good efficiency and is, proper pollution controls is perfectly fine. At least it's 95% better than a Volkswagen.
But I'm saying on that other argument, the electric manufacturing can have an economy of scale. If you can put pollution controls on a giant smokestack that you can't put on millions and millions of tiny little smokestacks.
Sure.
But the moral of this is that this isn't just like they cheated a little bit. Or
they cheated a ton.
They cheated,
the biggest cheating,
openly, blatantly, hugely, to the point that, like, the article I'm going to link to here talks about how this would have had to have been a gigantic institutional conspiracy.
Right, because you have the software, so obviously the engineers who wrote the software have to know.
Yeah. So hey, Scott, Broadway.com, we need you.
We need you. An engineer's just not going to think to do that. Someone told them to do it.
Scott, we need you to put a backdoor in the site. Personally, now don't tell any of your other teammates about this, but put a backdoor here.
So it could have been just a small number of people, but it had to be like the QA people are checking this code. People are testing this, right? It's like, there's a lot of people who would have had to been in on this who didn't blow the whistle. It might not have been everyone. Like the CEO might not have known about it. It's possible, right? But a lot of people at the company had to know about it and not say anything.
And even worse, low-level people wouldn't do this on their own. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, why would they think to do that?
Yeah, and even if they thought to do it,
someone had to order someone to do this. I mean, no one who's just like a software engineer is going to write this into the softwares of their own unless, like, they'd have to be like a genius who wanted to really get the company bad.
Yep. So, beyond that, the reason it wasn't caught for so long is partly because Volkswagen had such a good reputation that the EPA and all the testing that just happens both in the US and other countries, they didn't give Volkswagen a pass, but they had bigger fish to fry, so they didn't give them deep scrutiny because they had a good reputation. And they were mostly going after big diesel trucks lately because those are the real problems.
They're real bad.
And two, they're underfunded because of Republicans and politics in the U.S.
Everything's underfunded.
Yeah,
you don't say.
This would have been caught immediately if the EPA had been funded.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, there are a lot of states that don't have emissions testing, like in Michigan.
Yep.
I drove a car that would not have been street legal in New York or California when I was a kid. That's just how it went. But the testing now, basically, from what I can see, there's a big move to where the people who are responsible for this testing, one, This is such a big deal that there's talk of criminal charges. Like, I hope that people go to jail. I hope that the U.S. extradites executives from Volkswagen, and Germany better not say no.
Why don't they just put them in German jail? Why do we got to be always doing that? We're always cleaning up their messes. It's like, and then when they try to come after our companies, right?
Yeah, leave Google alone, you fuckers.
It's like, you could go after Google if they did something this bad, and I would be like, okay, go for it.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything.
I mean, Amazon, if anyone, Amazon's doing bad stuff right now by deciding to not sell streaming devices except theirs.
If you're a store, you're allowed to sell whatever you want.
The
grocery store is only selling Chiquita bananas.
Nah, to a point.
And not Bonita bananas.
To a point. Amazon has such market share that it's arguable that in a class where another division of Amazon competes, streaming devices, they probably shouldn't be allowed to ban competitors' products from their store.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Also, but I mean, antitrust is so weak lately.
I know.
If antitrust was what it should be,
but
all of these companies would be in like 100 pieces.
But I'm saying Europe's going after Google for the things they're going after Google for, and yet this Amazon shit's okay. Like, no.
Well, because, there's an Amazon.co. whatever country, and they're happy with that.
But based on the existing law, Volkswagen basically would be fined a certain amount per vehicle, which, because this is such a huge conspiracy, could be $20-30 billion. Never mind. And that's just the statutory fee. That's not punitive and criminal charges on top of that.
We should basically just own their company. Like Volkswagen is now property of the U.S. government.
It would be interesting. Like, these are the things that couldn't easily happen. But if this were a manga like Eagle, you could see the president and Congress being like, Volkswagen is banned from selling in the United States.
I know. It'd be like Volkswagen, the company, is now a subsidiary of the United States of America. We are selling all of it and taking all the money.
Or eminent domain, every unsold Volkswagen car in the U.S.
Oh, yeah. Every Volkswagen car in the U.S. is also owned by the U.S. government.
Well, no. all the way. If a consumer owns one, the government should at least pay you.
The unsold ones.
Yeah.
The ones dealers have.
I think everyone who owns one of these Volkswagens should basically be given a new car by Volkswagen because here's the thing. They bought a car that had emissions ratings and performance ratings. The recall will fix the emissions problems by ruining the performance.
That's true.
So you didn't get what you paid for.
That's right.
Yeah. Fuck Volkswagen. That's what I got to say about this. And every other car company, there's hints from the EPA and a lot of other regulators that basically, guys, if you're cheating, might be good to tell us now because you think we're not going to test every goddamn car ever from now on.
And also, even if you stop cheating now, your old cars are on the road now. You can't go and get your Toyota Camry from 2010 and bring it back and fix it before the EPA finds one.
Yeah, that embedded code is there.
This is also, you should be forced to have open source software in your car.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed to have that shit be closed source, proprietary.
So this gets into a wider problem of the fact that corporations can have such control over these things like car firmware and car emissions. And yet, people who are against tighter regulation of technology, which I'm for in a lot of cases, like internet, I want more regulation. I want net neutrality, as a lot of technologies do. The fact, people say we don't need regulation, but a trustworthy, or at least, until now, trustworthy, respected global company that generally people had a very high opinion of engaged in massive, global, cripplingly damaging to the environment fraud and conspiracy to commit fraud pretty much says you need regulations.
Well, someone said something very clever, which is that regulation is built on the idea, right, that you can't trust people to not lie, but you can trust things to not lie. But this is a case where things lied, and the only way to make things not lie is if it's not any proprietary closed source software. Then you know that things aren't lying.
Because if you have code, you can hook up unit tests all around that code and ask the code, hey, what do you do?
Well,
you can ask the car, hey.
Everyone should be able to read the code. If I own the car, I should be, by law, I should be able to have, the full diagram, plans for everything in the car, including all the software. For any device you buy, all that stuff should just be given to you.
Even the OS that runs on the device?
Yes. Fuck you.
All right, I take a radical stance, but I don't want to go that far. I would be happy with a little bit of that.
Why not? I'm paying you, any amount of money for this thing, and especially a car where your life is on the line.
No, Scott, I agree with you. I agree with you. I disagree in the sense that politically, we can't get anything done.
No, but that's,
let's
not talk about anything else except the fact that governments are corrupt, because we can't get anything done.
Paging Lawrence Lessig.
Let's not talk about anything else because there's no point.
You got any other news?
Yeah, so it's a tiny news. Adobe had a big thing today. They made a bunch of announcements and updates to their stuff. The one that probably matters to people listening here, if you care, is they updated a lot of the mobile apps, right? For the Android and the iPhone. The iPhone and the Android even.
Yeah, correct order there.
Yeah, correct. So the big update is Lightroom Mobile's way improved, and I think it says in the update, I think it's somewhat free. Like even if you don't have a Creative Cloud, I think Lightroom Mobile is somewhat free. And some of these other apps might be partially free.
Well, I noticed that because some of the apps I installed, like they did stuff before I authenticated my Creative Cloud.
Yeah, and I mean, there's apps that do the same thing that are also free, so it's kind of stupid to, right? Like you can get VSCO Cam for free. But anyway, the big one they did is there were 4 apps: brush, hue, color, and shape. And they combine them into one, which is Adobe Capture. And it's like, yes, I don't have 4 stupid icons on my screen. Now I only have 1 icon. Yeah. That's the best news.
Meanwhile, Google split Wallet into Wallet and Android Pay, so now I got 2 icons instead of 1.
Haha.
And also, and I'll talk about this on another show in the future, but
is king.
Last tiny news, the much-awaited successor to the Nexus 5, the Nexus 5X, like it's out, the specs are out, it's garbage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not materially better than the existing Nexus 5, except it has a working camera as opposed to a garbage camera.
How about some iPhone action?
We'll see what I do now. My last hope would have been the Xperia Z5 if, 1, these overheating problems aren't true, and 2, I hold in my hand someone else's Z5 Compact that they have gotten CyanogenMod working on, and they tell me how they did it. Those are the only 2 ways I'll ever buy a Sony phone. And the Nexus 5X is garbage. It's bigger than the Nexus 5. It's not that much faster or more powerful, and it has a bigger bezel. The screen's higher resolution, but the screen's not actually bigger. Just the bezel's bigger. I don't know why they made this phone.
Because they're not good enough. They're trying to do good, but they suck.
Yeah, but the Nexus 5X is just like, it's a shittier version of all the other big phones.
They're not good at it.
Yeah. So we'll see.
That's why I'm Apple.
I'll continue to use my Nexus 5, which is still the best Android phone on the market, even though it has a bad camera. I know, Conrad, you keep telling me it has a bad camera. You know what?
How many pictures you taking with it?
I take a lot of crappy pictures with it because it's phone. I have a real camera too.
Just buy a camera.
Yeah. Things of the day. NASA has released in a little Flickr gallery all the pictures they took on the moon, not just the good ones like they'd released before. It's kind of like if you go to my Flickr,
too.
Because think about it, even a crappy picture of the moon in 1969 from the moon is a picture of the moon from 1969.
The reason these pictures look good is because if you look up the kind of cameras they brought when they went into space, they brought these Hasselblad cameras that are incredible. So that's why all the pictures of space from those days look incredible.
But it's really interesting to see this because
you can even get the manual on how to use that camera that they gave to the astronauts because it's not like they were photographers or anything.
Yeah, but I mean, just think about that. We can see the full. It's like looking at my Flickr photo stream. That's all the pictures I took, not just the good ones. There's 6 pictures of Scott doing something weird, and they're all from different angles, and they tell a little story by themselves. That's not interesting enough to feature, but kind of neat to see.
Anyway,
yeah.
So there's this group of kids called the obviously from Louisville, Kentucky, Leopards percussionists, right? So it's this after school program where it doesn't cost a lot of money or no money, and the kids can go and they practice percussion, drums, cymbals,
marimbas,
xylophones, and when they get these kids together, they make them play the highest quality tunes for your enjoyment. So if you search for them on YouTube...
Oh, this already looks like a high-quality group of kids here.
If you search for them on YouTube, right, there are many, many songs that they are playing. If you look in the sidebar there. I saw one where they were playing I
see a lot of Zeppelin hanging out in
some
here.
War, some Lowrider.
Yep.
So we're linking to a little Zeppelin here, but you can make a little YouTube playlist and enjoy. Also, you should be like very sad that these little kids are way better than you playing music.
In the meta moment, the book club book was The Wheel of Time, book 1. That review's up, like it's done, that episode. And Scott and I just kept reading them. So Scott's on book 5.
I'm almost on book 5.
I'm
getting close. I'm almost done with book 4.
Oh,
like
I'm about halfway through book 4. So
I'm on like 90% book 4.
So I'm not going to announce the new book club book because we might just keep talking about The Wheel of Time a little bit because we're burning through them. And they continue to plot at the same level of quality and pace.
It's just plodding along.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is, traveled to Telharan, Riyadh
in the early books,
dreams.
I know a lot about that place now. I know about wolves now. I know their deal.
Wolves, okay.
So in book 1, I wanted all 3 kids to shut up because Maureen and Lan are the only people who know, and Tom were smart and the kids were stupid.
Tom is still the best.
In book
also,
2, Perrin was the only one I liked other than the adults.
Mm-hmm.
Book 3, all 3 of those kids are okay now, and the girls who want to be mages, they need to shut up. They need to just...
Rim, so sexist, telling the ladies to shut up.
No, seriously. Half the problems in that book stem from one of them said something they shouldn't have because they're kids and they don't know what they're doing.
Well, the one who's not a kid is like so angry all the time.
Yeah, she is the worst of them. Just cool it. Seriously, Nineveh.
Oh, by the way, the pronunciations, if you look in the glossary
Yeah,
in the
I
back
looked
of the
them up
book,
now.
there's pronunciations.
I was right on about 30% of them and way wrong on the rest. Like, I got Maureen right. I got Lan right.
Oh, Lan, that's a hard one.
Yeah. Could have been Lan.
Lan Party.
Lan.
Lan Party.
It's Egwene, I guess, not Egwene.
Oh, well.
I thought Egwene was a boy's name, but I guess I don't know how that stuff works.
This Gawain.
Yeah, Gawain. Gawain. Those two guys,
Galad.
I still can't tell them apart. I forget which one's which. The thing is, every time they're mentioned, the context tells you which one it is because no one knows their names.
Yeah.
They're just interchangeable.
One of the one is who's too good that he's bad, and then the other one is the prince.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway. Gennaro Prince guy.
So yeah, we're going to keep reading The Wheel of Time. And
goes round and round.
Yep. No cons for a while till MagFest. We're going to be at MagFest. We're doing a bunch of panels at MagFest.
We're not going to the New York Comic Con.
No, we're not going to the New York
It's real
Comic Con.
soon. You can go if you want.
We're doing things around the New York Comic Con, but we're not actually going to the New York Comic Con, which, seriously, guys, unless you already live here, the New York Comic Con sucks. Like, I'm not even going to front. Like, it sucks.
Every nerdy person I meet is going, and I'm like, why? It's because they like that shit.
I have a free badge, and the subway goes to the Javits now.
Yeah, now the subway goes directly there.
I can get in a subway that I can see from my window and get out at the New York Comic Con with a free badge. I'm still not going. That's how much I really don't like the New York Comic Con.
You just want to buy comic books and wait in line
to see things that are going to be on YouTube.
Yeah, have someone announce something or see a famous person that I don't give a shit about who's in like some TV show.
Yeah, and you know what? They're all famous people that you can usually see at smaller cons.
Well, you can see the big
easier.
famous people who are on TV, but I don't watch garbage TV like you people.
Yeah, and all the people I would want to see,
they're not coming.
Or if they're coming, they're at a bunch of other cons too. So I'm not going to go to New York Comic Con. I'll see them at some smaller con.
No one I actually care about is coming.
Yeah, like some of those people will be at like Mocha. So
sure.
So yeah, and we're gonna start up the Patreon we were talking about soon. But I realized there's something real I can offer through that Patreon to interest you kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we did beta Geeknights for a long time before we did real Geeknights?
Anyone who signs to the Patreon gets the beta Geeknights?
I will one of the rewards I will give is I will periodically, in Patreon only, put up one of the pre-Geeknights beta episodes.
Do you even know where they are?
Yeah, of course I know where they are. I check every few months to see if they're still downloadable.
But so you're not going to give them the URL. You're going to upload them in a different place.
I'm going to put them up.
But of course, once one person gets them, they can share them with everybody.
Yeah, they could. And you know what? I stand by my idea that DRM free. So if you pay us $1 on Patreon, steal these and make a torrent and post a link in the forum, I'm not going to stop you. You're a dick, but at the same time, I'm going to practice what I preach about DRM free.
Why don't we just make Geeknights episodes that are only in there?
There's going to be Patreon exclusive content, but it's going to take me a long time to spin that up because...
you can't even make regular content.
do you realize the majority of the messages I get through YouTube are, yo, dog, why you know Geeknights presents Utena 14? that is the majority of the messages I get. So Patreon's coming soon, and if enough people sign up for it, we will commit to going to PAX Australia 2016.
Okay.
So, forthepeople.com is down, and that saga came to an end.
So if you don't know what my saga might not be over yet, but
the saga is wonderful.
But we had to talk about this. So there's something we've wanted for a long time, and suddenly this thing came out called Peeple, Peeple, that was going to do exactly the thing that we thought about and knew was coming, which is Yelp for human beings, right? There would be a page for people, and you would rate people.
I've wanted that along with like Google Glass. My dream of augmented reality is to go to a room party at a convention, and that guys are rated and flagged as that guys by people I trust.
So you look around and you see people, and then you get information about those people just by looking at them.
Like, oh, this guy's into Netrunner. He's a chill dude. This isn't that guy. This gentleman actually was flagged by 3 of your friends as being a straight-up creeper pickup artist.
Right. So right now we have the Facebooks and stuff, which is you make a profile about yourself and you put your own stuff up on your own page. This would be the opposite. You put there's a profile about you, and other people put the content there about you.
Now, there are 2 sides of that coin at a conceptual level.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Captain Obvious.
Yeah, before we even talk about people. So, yeah, my use cases are great. But at the same time, you saw what happened with Gamergate and Twitter and all that nonsense. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, so, Anita Sarkeesian's page is going to be so great. She's going to have such great reviews that are all true. and that's going to be a totally helpful profile to visit when you want to learn about her.
So there were actually, what's cool is like.
And my sarcasm detector is totally working.
Now, when Scott and I came up with this idea, and we still want to make this happen, our idea was, use augmented reality and face recognition and all that, but it's not a public database of reviews. You subscribe to friend networks of individual people. So, like, my personal friends all share data about people we've reviewed. No one else gets that data. Mm-hmm. So I flag a dude as bad to my friends. So it's the same as me pulling you aside and saying, yo, see that guy over there in the fedora? Don't talk to him. Mm-hmm. So I think that gets around like 90% of those problems.
Yep.
But people had another interesting way. And none of the reporting about people actually talked about this. The way people worked was everyone has a profile. Only positive reviews go up ever. Negative reviews never appear unless that person themselves has an active People account. So you can't negatively review someone.
Who's checking all of these accounts?
You have to give star ratings and stuff.
Yeah, but who's checking to make sure there's what's negative and what's positive?
That I'm curious about, actually.
That to manually check all this?
Maybe. I mean, maybe I didn't read all the details because People's gone.
Yeah. It was such a controversial idea that they just shied away and disappeared.
Supposedly, any negative review, even if you had an account, would go into a holding area and you'd get a notification.
How would they know a review's negative?
I'm skipping that
positive,
part.
Yeah.
Supposedly. That's why I keep saying supposedly. And you'd have 48 hours to contest it or flag it or whatever. And
who's checking every 48 hours? You got to keep it in there for a long time.
I guess the kind of people who would use a system like this. Because honestly, I would not have signed up for People.
No, what do I need it for?
Yeah. Because I'm going to rate people around me like Yelp. I would rate the dude who sat next to me on the flight home from Australia. Jesus God.
Yeah.
That guy. Oh, blessed be.
That's what it's for.
Blessed be.
That's what it's for.
He wheezed through his fedora. Oh my God. Anyway, that guy was I could write the review of that guy right now. And just post it anonymously on Craigslist. That would be funny, but
but that's what it's for. That's it, right? So I think we should just make people. They were too chicken to make it, or at least it appears they're too chicken to make it. Well, let's just while the iron's hot. Let's just fucking strike. We'll make it. And here's how my version of People's gonna work, right? It's gonna be just like Yelp for people.
Yep.
All profiles will be public. There's gonna be nothing private on the site whatsoever. However, we're not just going to make a profile for everyone. We're going to start only by making profiles for famous people because it's open.
Clever.
It's legally open season on famous people.
In fact, if they're dead, you can basically do anything.
Oh yeah, Van Gogh's going up first, right? We can rat on Van Gogh all we want.
We
right?
start with old dead celebrities and work our way down.
Right. Then, if you want a profile on there for a not famous person, we got to figure out where the line is on famous, right? But we'll probably just start with the epically famous only, like, president level.
Yeah,
right?
and probably avoid known litigious actors. Like, leave Tom Cruise off for a little while.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, and then working our way down. But the way it's going to work is, let's say I want to have a profile for me, but I'm not famous. A profile of me can only exist if I make it. Well, how do we know that someone else won't just make a Scott Rubin profile? Well, because anyone who wants to make one, they have to call us themselves, and we'll check and super check to make sure they're actually the person they say they are. And we'll make the profile for them after being super sure that they're them and they wanted the profile up. But once they do, there's no changing your mind, right? Which is why we made super sure. And then once you have a profile, not only do you have a profile, but you can now review other people. You can't review other people unless you're putting yourself up to be reviewed. All right. So if you want to go up and, get an account, to go onto Scott Rubin's page and say how much of a jerk I am, well, you better be ready for me to go on your page and say, well, this guy's just some random person who hates me.
And that way,
the reason he hates me is because of this and this and this, and here's the horrible things I'm going to reveal about him.
And that way, slander, libel, all that stuff, pass through, just like Google with the copyright stuff.
Yeah, it's
pass
like,
through lawsuits.
I guarantee that the person who posted this is actually this real person, because not the person who was commented on and the person commenting both verified with us that those accounts belong to the people they say they do. Oh, and those accounts cost money.
Yep.
And that's how it should work.
Yep. Now, it's the meta level, because Peeple is pretty obviously one of those like startup people. Well, startup people had some money and an idea, and they were getting other people to work for equity or whatever. Probably like all
this
startups
is going to
are.
exist whether you like it or not, right? We don't, just like this is, we talked about this on our privacy show many times. I think we had a whole show about it.
Like a lot of people were so mad about Peeple. Like, guys, the people will exist,
right? I just want to reiterate this. It's like, because so many privacy advocates out there. And the thing that's the funniest to me are the people who are like, they're anti-copyright and pro-privacy. It's like they're the same issue. The issue is whether you agree that it should be this way or not, it is impossible to stop the transfer of information that can be digitized as long as the internet exists. There is nothing you can do about it. There is no legislation you can make that will stop it. There is no technological measure you can make that will stop it. It is a law of the universe. Just like you can't, no matter how much you don't like gravity or the law of conservation of energy, you cannot stop them. Therefore, even though it sucks, and I agree it might be better in many or some ways if it wasn't this way, just like the world would be a lot better without the law of conservation of energy.
Yep. But
you just have to deal with it rather than try to fight it. So
preventing something like Peeple from existing in any form
is impossible.
It's like preventing me from telling Scott that some guy I met on an airplane flying back from Australia was a really horrifying person and personally annoyed me.
Yes. Therefore, we have to, instead of trying to stop people from making a thing like Peeple, and you should figure out a way for you to live in a world where Peeple is an inevitability.
Because it is an inevitability. Like, I am shocked. Well, I'm not shocked, but it is interesting to see the ridiculous, immediate, and such widespread, voluminous hate toward and anger about this platform. Like, I get the impression that they expected a moderate amount of pushback, and what they got was the Hoover Dam exploding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I suspect that's mostly because of all the GG nonsense that happened recently. Like, this is a real problematic issue right now.
Well, because play guns.
Well, it means that the people who made Peeple have no idea what's going on the internet.
Well, they're definitely, they're out of touch for sure.
Yeah,
right.
Like, this had to launch before.
We're talking about that specific incident, though.
If this had launched 2 years ago, it would have made billions and been sold.
Maybe. But
now it's hard to sell it as it is, this kind of idea, because people are really mad about Peeple and things like Peeple.
Well, that means you strike while the iron's hot, like I said.
Yeah. But, I mean, most of the complaints were that people are afraid that they will get rated poorly and slanderously by strangers. All right, so
let's imagine a world. Let's say I could put up a site tomorrow, and on the site, anyone can make a profile for anyone, upload any picture they want, and write any comment they want. And all the URLs are like, scottspeople.com/name.
Now, things like that in the early days of the internet actually did kind of exist.
Right, what would happen if I did that?
There'd be a bunch of dicks and defamation and slander and libel and nonsense on there all over the place.
That's true.
And the people who are on that site would be super mad at you and try to make you take it down.
For making a database with a web interface that had upload picture, write name.
Yep. I mean, remember weblogs or when people would sign the guest book on a website?
Mm-hmm.
Those basically had that same kind of content pretty much. The day normal people got access to the internet, as opposed to just researchers, every one of those things was filled with spam and slander.
Mm-hmm. You should just make a website and be like, just like that, and be like, let it be spam. Just let it go. See what happens.
I mean, I feel like harassment is something that has to be dealt with specifically, and it cannot be dealt with the blanket idea that you can't other people, third parties cannot talk about you on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot prevent third parties from talking about you on the internet, but you can deal with harassment in some fashion, and that is way beyond the scope of this episode, how to deal with that.
Yeah, it also comes into Europe's little right to be forgotten, right? It's like,
Yep.
Let's say you did something really shitty a long time ago.
You mean like the prime minister with his pig dick thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
And then someone posts that so that now the whole world knows.
It's true. In the U.S., truth is safety from libel and slander.
Right, you did this thing a long time ago. It's true, and now it's like, well, that was a different time. You understand? I don't want to have to carry that my whole life. Well, you shouldn't have fucked up.
Now, to be fair, it's easy for us to say that because
We
Scott
haven't
and
fucked up.
Well, not only that,
I haven't done anything that I'm ashamed of.
But what about things that you are not ashamed of, but widespread knowledge of them would harm you in the society in which you live?
Anyone who tries to harm me, I'll fuck them over.
What if you are a disempowered minority who does not have the ability to fuck them over?
Then I'm not on the internet, so it's not really a problem.
Yeah, there are disempowered minorities on the internet. Are you racist? You saying that minorities don't use the internet?
The Syrian refugees are not on the internet.
I'm not talking about
the internet
them.
is the least of their problems.
I'm talking about way higher in the tier than them.
Okay, so not super disempowered. Only
It's still pretty super disempowered, not mega or extremely disempowered.
Okay, you got a different disempowerment scale over there.
Gargantuan, like D&D.
What's the highest possible level of disempowerment? You're left alone on the moon?
Yeah, on fire in a ditch, that whole thing.
Yeah. Okay.
You derailed my train of thought. I was going somewhere with this.
Okay.
I was going somewhere pretty good with this.
Why is anyone making a profile out of you if you're so disempowered? Why does anyone care?
Well, because some bully in your high school decided to target just you and got everyone on board, and then 4chan piled on top of that for lulz.
Okay, so there's a page on the internet that says bad things about you. This page exists.
And it's truth, and it says that you're homosexual and you live in Russia.
Okay, why are you still living in Russia?
Because not everyone can just leave Russia.
Okay, so go to someone else's page and write down that they're homosexual on it. What are they going to do about it?
Except that you don't have the clout with all the anti-homosexual bullies.
What do you mean? You just went to someone else. You went to the page of everyone in your whole class, and you wrote the same thing there.
Yeah, but your page had a dog pile of all the other people that the bullies knew, amplifying it in a way that you cannot.
How is it amplified? It's on one page.
No, because they like it, so it's got like 10,000. Like, yes, this is
says
true
this
and
thing
accurate.
has likes?
So they post. So your profile has that from 1,000 different accounts.
Okay.
And their profile has it from one account that they just say, well, obviously it's Scott because he's so mad.
How do they know?
That I outed him. It's obviously not true.
How do they know that what's on my page is actually true?
Because they don't. They were doing it just to bully you.
Okay, so my page is a thing on it.
Yeah.
So
now so they amplify that with other people that they know because they target you semi-randomly at that point.
Okay.
So now there's an amplified signal against you. And that signal is a signal that in that society could get you beaten up.
How
do
they amplify the signal?
Like I just
Specifically.
said. Okay, so usually what happens is one bully decides to pick on one kid for whatever reason.
This has been true before the internet.
Yeah.
How is this any different?
Because he does it on the internet so he can amplify that signal way more, way beyond. In the old days, you could leave a high school, go to another high school, no one knew who you were. Nowadays, that bully train literally follows you to that high school.
Okay.
That it really does. That's how it works now.
All right. But I mean, so
you're not saying that
you have a
web
web page. There's a web page that exists that has your picture and it says you're homosexual on it. How is that affecting you really that badly?
If you live in Russia and you could be killed for being a homosexual.
But how do they know that it's true? Everyone's page says it on there.
Yours says it more often.
Okay.
Like that's true. So
if I make a spam bot and post it on someone else's page
Scott,
1,000 times, that suddenly makes them gay?
And my 50 friends and their 500 friends all say it about you, and then one of those people just goes and beats you up because they knew you were targeted by me. What do you do about that? You can't fight back. You don't have an amplification back against that.
That's how can they tell the difference between 1,000 people and a spam bot?
They don't need to. They just know.
They just know.
Yeah, Scott, you know how 4chan mobs form, right? Someone posts saying, go after this kid, here's his phone number, and a few thousand people decide to go after that specific person just because.
Okay.
Like, they don't need a reason.
So 4chan already does this, so what does it matter if there's one more website that does the same thing?
No, I'm saying that concept is the problem, not one more website doing it.
Right.
How the problem still has to be dealt with in some fashion. Right now, it's not being dealt with.
But that problem has nothing to do with people.
People, as it was modeled, could probably make that problem worse because it has so much media attention.
I still don't see how there is. I could make a web page tomorrow with a picture of Rim.
No
that
one
says
would
all
care
kinds
about
of
your
horrible-
webpage, but if People had gone live, people would have cared about it a lot more because it was in the news and grandma and everyone's talking about it.
Okay.
And also, they're probably not going to have the negative detection that we were talking about because, like you said, how do they do that? And they didn't say how they were going to do that.
I don't think they could do that. I think they were
short of humans reviewing, which is
humans
not a scalable
reviewing every
business
single
model.
one, which is not going to work.
I mean, Geeknights, we used to review every single person who applied to the forum, and that was actually a lot of pain in the ass work.
Well, it was only pain in the ass work because Vanilla had really shitty spam filter and these spam applications. And now they fixed that at least, so we still review everyone who tries to join the forum.
Yeah.
But now there's very few spam applicants, so it's much easier.
All right, we've gone on for about an hour, but yeah, it looks like People came and went in a flash.
There will be another People.
There will be 10 things like People within 5 years that are all big enough to have the same impact, and it'll be interesting to see how that all evolves. Because I don't want to miss out on this I don't want to miss out on my Google Glass where I can find out if any of my friends have flagged someone as a creeper or a racist.
That is right. That's the thing is people keep concentrating on like this worst case scenario, which isn't really any different than the internet we have already, right? And they're not focusing on the positive. They're not even thinking of any positive of this. And the positive of this is you can find out about people who really are bad well in advance and avoid them instead of like finding out later. Right? Horrible secrets about things.
Well, that's why maybe you make a really focused one. Like I was wanting to make something like Fedora Dar.
Someone who, and that's people don't have this sense of like justice, I guess, that I have and that some other people may have, is that if someone did a bad thing, truly, maybe they deserve social consequences for the bad thing that they truly did, and they shouldn't be able to get away from that somehow.
But the counterpoint to that is that there's a lot of societies where things that the society as a whole declares bad are not bad.
The real problem is that society's fucked up.
Yeah,
and not
but what do you do about Russia? What do you do about Hungary?
blow them up. They look like they want to go to war. Let's give them war.
They do seem to want to go to war again.
They want to go to war. Fine. I just call up. If I was president, I would just call up Putin. He'd be low on my list. Actually, I'd be calling up much worse places than that. But like, I would call up. I'd be calling up Saudi Arabia, and I'd be like, Saudi Arabia, let women drive tomorrow. No, I'm blowing up your country in 1 hour unless you let women drive. Are you the women driving yet? No, here come the F-16s.
So Scott, remember
was that Mecca got blown up? Why don't you fix this?
What was it, Ex Machina?
How many aircraft carriers do you have? Is there anything you can do about this? No, let the women drive.
Scott, wasn't that Ex Machina? The New
it's
York
now
mayor?
Saudi United States.
The New York mayor had superpowers.
Welcome to America.
Why don't someone make that same comic, but it's the president, but he acts like Batman?
Yeah. I don't understand why we don't do this. Why do we spend all this money in this military if we're not going to use it?
Well, Russia's working on it.
Russia is working on it.
Yeah, they're going to... I mean, you saw they authorized sending ground troops to Syria, which is amazing because...
What do they want there?
Why
do they care what happens
to
there?
derail, but if it was a video game or a movie, I'd assume that is to to oil the war machine to make sure it works, to get it going again.
They're practicing.
But that's crazy in the modern era. Also because Russia's military sucks.
And why do they care what happens in Syria?
Well, because Syria is their ally for a bunch of reasons, and they sell a lot of arms to Syria.
But now you're not selling them arms, you're using arms that you bought.
Yeah.
That you're losing money doing this.
It might partly
money.
be because they want to
money.
keep this puppet regime there to counterbalance what they perceive, stupidly, as American influence in the region because, yeah, our Afghanistan and Iraq puppet states are so valuable and secure to us.
Oh, yes. Oh,
What if it's a big con game and this is a long scam by the U.S. to trick Russia into getting embroiled in a land war in the Middle East so we can back away and be like, well, not our problem.
Good strategy. Good.
That would also be a good plot for a movie.
A+ strategy. Haha, we tricked you into going to war and ruining your own country.
So yeah, here's your movie. It's Dave, but he is trying to trick Russia into invading North Korea.
Yeah. It works. Russia, the country, is ruined. And it's like, oh, he did all our work for us. We don't need a military. We can just do everything by talking.
All right. It's been an hour. Geeknights will be continuing normally from this point on. Stay tuned for, videos to come up. I got still a huge
We had to make the
backlog of video.
craziest show to make people remember what Geeknights is about.
Yeah. It's about this.
We couldn't make anything that was serious or sensible.
I was serious, mostly.
How could you be serious about a website that misspelled the word people?
You know what? I am not as serious as Land the Warder, who I think is the most serious person in that entire...
Land's, his middle name is Serious.
This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.